Hello, this
Hello,
time.
everyone, to a very special episode of the Two Idiot Gamers podcast.
Yeah,
Today,
the time I explained to Chris how 40k's orcs work and why they're kind of weirder than any other version of orcs out there that I can think of.
yes, you
With
heard
the
him. You heard him
possible,
right. Today, we're learning about Warhammer because that's the
well,
craze nowadays, and I'm in a bit of a Warhammer era. Today, AC is going to teach me all about orcs and what orcs are. You know those
to be
green
fair, with
things
Warhammer,
with the teeth and the shooters and the blasters
with their
and
green
the
skins, boy. Yeah, this kid
and the
can't shut
and
up.
the diggers. Also, what's up, my diggers? I officially got the orc pass, so I can say that now, thanks to AC.
What's this git talking about? He don't know shit. He needs to get good.
All right,
He
AC,
don't know anything yet.
AC.
Why
What's
would you
the
want to do that?
what's
That's dumb.
what's the deal with orcs? I tried to do my best Seinfeld impression, but it
Well,
failed.
I could tell what you were trying to do, and you're trying to ask about the greenskins, who are one of the most bizarre versions of orcs ever, with the possible exception of Age of Sigma orcs, who are also they're like the fantasy version of 40k orcs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the one that's Vermintide takes place in. I'm pretty sure
yeah,
like a lot of people got introduced to the Warhammer fantasy through Vermintide, me included.
yeah, yeah. But
Is there much
orcs are
difference
weird.
between the two? Like between like the
Much as
Warhammer
I haven't
ones?
looked. I know they are different, but I don't know how they're different because I haven't looked too much into it.
Okay, so this is just gonna be Warhammer 40k version of Orcs then. We can
Yeah,
do
yeah.
like a whole thing about fantasy another time.
I still need to learn fantasy. I haven't been that interested in the fantasy version, if I'm honest, because they're like half as interesting, and the Necrons don't exist. And the Necrons, oh, you got to also know about the Necrons to understand why the orcs even exist in the first place.
Oh, that just
Because
gave me a major idea. You teach me about 40k and I teach you about Warhammer Fantasy. Cause I played a lot of like
yeah,
Total War Warhammer and I know a lot about like the Skaven and stuff.
okay.
That'd be fun. Skaven is my favorite race, but back to orcs.
I don't
Alright,
think
so
Skaven exists in 40k, but the orcs in 40k are they started out as weapons. They were created by a species called the Great Old Ones by everybody else except the orcs. The orcs just called them the Brain Boys. That's all this is.
that's with
Them's the
the
Brain Boys.
that's with a Z at the end, right? Brain
Ah,
Boys with a
well,
Z.
yeah, one of their shits with the Z, man.
Okay, good.
That's how the orcs work. Well, them, they're known as the Crocs. And they actually had, like, actual technology. They didn't have, like, weird, kind of cobbled together random shit that the orcs have. They had, like, proper tech, proper armor. And those things stood. Some of the bigger quarks stood as tall as 12 meters,
12 meters.
which
How much is that like in feet and inches?
for context,
Mm-hmm.
6 feet is about 2 meters.
Okay.
You multiply that by six to get the height.
Hmm. Damn, that is really tall then, I'm guessing. I only know things like in feet because I'm American. So
Yeah, but you can also do slight amounts of math where you can multiply six by six. It's really not that hard.
bro, math is difficult. Alright.
No, it's really not, because that would mean they're 36 feet. Math is easy.
36 feet, Jesus Christ. You could
12
have just
meters is
told me
about
that.
36 feet. I could have, but that means I have to do all the math for you.
Yes,
And I
please.
don't feel like doing that math, you lazy sod.
Okay.
Anyway, the whole point of the orcs is they were created to fight the Necrons because in a giant conflict called the War in Heaven. Although it's also interesting if you know that the orcs and the Eldari were created around the same time. In fact, they were created for the same reason. The Eldari were just like the psychic warriors, while the orcs were the
And the
brawn.
Eldar are like the version of like elves, right?
Yeah, orcs and the
Okay.
elves came from basically the same creators. But like the orcs after the war in heaven, which lasted several million years, it was a long war because the Necrons couldn't die because they turned themselves into soulless regenerating robots, and the Eldar lived for fucking long. And the orcs, if given the right kind of treatment, will also live basically forever. They don't necessarily immortal, but they're not mortal. They have the lifespan of mushrooms or other fungi because they are just spores. So they were built to be muscular, aggressive warriors. That was their point.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the war in heaven ended with the Silent King going off, leaving the galaxy, and the Necrons going to sleep, they were just the Quarks were just kind of left on their own. And because they didn't really have much else to do, they just sort of devolved into fighting each other and became the Orks. It was just a big band, eh? All a war. And all the war does is they fight. They fight each other. Or
So
whoever else would get in the way. They just live to go look for a good fight.
So since you mentioned a Wa, what is a Wa exactly?
A war is when a war is like the easiest way to do it would be a war band of orcs, right?
Uh-huh.
But that's kind of oversimplifying it because a war starts usually when an orc, any orc, could be any orc, usually it's a war boss, it's a dream from Gork and Mork, the two gods of the orcs. Because Gork is cunning but brutal, while Mork is brutal but cunning.
It's like this. It's the same thing, isn't it?
Oh, what it actually means is one of them will punch you in the face, while the other one will stab you in the back.
Ah, okay.
Basically
So one's like sneaky, and then one's just like upfront and brutal.
Kind of, but not really, because even the orcs confuse them. They are basically the same. They just like having two gods so that the gods can fight each other, and they can gain kind of power from that.
Ah, okay.
That's how Gork and Mork work, boyo. But yeah, so that's kind of their thing is they just worship Gork and Mork, and Gork or Mork or Gork and Mork will give a war boss a vision of something he needs to go and invade, and then he will go, fueled by his vision of the future and his need for battle. He will muster some orcs, and he'll muster some more orcs, and then he'll muster some more orcs until it's several planetary systems worth of orcs, where they could fill, every planet in our solar system with orcs, and then they go across the galaxy. They go looking for a big fight with everyone, anything.
So what is like the whole main purpose of orcs and what they do? They just live to fight. That's it.
They live to fight. That's the whole thing. There's a reason a lot of people see orcs as like the innocents in the galaxy, so to speak, because their whole thing is they just fight. They're happiest when they're in the middle of a fight. If they're having a fight with someone, then they're happy. If they're not fighting, they're kind of miserable and bored and start fighting each other, and then they get happy again because they're in a fight. Ad infinitum. You just keep doing this until they get bored, which basically never happens because
There's always something to fight.
Yeah, that's true. There's always something to fight. Usually other orcs, but sometimes there's the beakies. There's the
Beakies being the space marines, right?
Yeah, even though the beakies is the old ancient name what they gave them, because the oldest version of a space marine's helmet had like a big beak from back during the days of the Horus Heresy.
So like
they had like a big ass beak thing on it.
So if you guys have seen like 480K Bolt Gun, like the character in that game has like a white helmet, like has a beak. I'm pretty sure that's like what you're referencing, right?
Something like that. But like they had a very specific design on the beaks. I mean, let me see if I can find a good picture of a 30K Space Marine. Oop, I don't know why I'm holding shift down.
So when you say they like fight themselves, is that something that happens often? Like they just like there's like a lot of infighting stuff to who determine who's like the strongest, like in the to lead the like the tribe kind of.
Kind of.
Because you mentioned war bosses, I'm pretty sure like every orc wants to be a war boss, but only the strongest can be a war boss, right?
Yeah, but it's kind of you have to fight other orcs to get that position and be called the war boss. So they usually, yeah, they get into fights, but they can have fights where they just straight up murder each other because they're orcs. They're gonna kill each other. They don't give a shit. But also, orcs are weird in that if you could decapitate an orc, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can then take that head and sew it on the body of another orc who lost his head. Bigger orc. In fact, that's basically what happened to one of the biggest orcs, most famous orcs in 40k. Gazgul Mak Uruk-Thraka, the current leader of the Great War.
So when you say that you can just take off an orc's head and sew it on another orc's like stump body, and it'd be okay. How like what's like the biology of like an orc?
They're fungus. They don't really have much biology. They have like a few organs, but they're mostly just made up of what lets them hit things.
So
that's what they exist as.
So they're mostly like all muscle then.
Yeah, they're all muscle. Although they are kind of weird in that they have a thing where the bigger they get, the more intelligent they get, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're also super, super fucking robust. These motherfuckers can survive in space. But it's also, they're kind of weird in that, like, the bigger they get, the more intelligent they get, therefore, the more they know things, which can negatively impact them, right? So take a small warband of orcs who don't realize they're not supposed to be able to breathe in space because of the way their warp or their like psychic field works. They don't know that, and they believe they can breathe in space. They can fucking breathe in space, man. These motherfuckers will just breathe in space. But if they realize or discover that they're not supposed to be able to breathe in space, and enough people tell them that, and they haven't tried,
they just die.
Yeah, they won't. No, yeah, they'll just suffocate. They won't be able to breathe in space.
That's so funny. So what you're saying is basically if they believe hard enough about something, then that comes true.
Pretty much. It's how their tech works. But it's also weird because like they won't. You couldn't go and convince an orc of something being true, and then it would become true. You have to convince hundreds of thousands of orcs for that to work. So the fact that they have things where like they believe certain colors grant them certain boosts in certain things, right? Like for example, an orc boy paints himself blue, right? He's gonna be the luckiest orc you've ever met because blue's the luckiest color.
Oh, that's great.
He'll be lucky. He can steal your shit.
So
he's got his big shooter, and he'll steal all your shit.
So I'm guessing by this like color convention, there's a bunch of orcs that paint like I'm guessing like they have vehicles. I'm guessing different colors. Yeah. So
there's several clans of orcs, right? Or kind of tribes, right? So there's the evil sons who love to drive fast in the like trucks. They love going fast, right? All their trucks and shit are painted fucking red. That's just how they go because they want to go fucking fast. So that's what they got. Then they've got bad moons. I might be off getting this fucking from a weird place, but the bad moons, they're snobby fucking flash gits, right? All their shit is fucking gold. It's all painted yellow because yellow's the richest color. It's also
the richest color,
the biggest, boomiest color. So everything they got is painted gold. But then there's the Death Skulls, who are a bunch of fucking filches and just sort of all their shit is painted blue because it's the luckiest color, so they steal all their shit.
Yeah, we are, Misha. We're talking Warhammer. Go
And
on ahead.
then there's the blood axes. Just they're described as like human lovers, but they're just pirates. They're orc pirates who do more stealing than fighting. They still love a good scrap, but they're more likely to go and try and steal shit than to like get into a big fight. Their whole deal is they like to steal shit. Well, not so much steal shit as just be rich. So they bargain with everyone. They get all the shit they want.
Are there like actual? They're like pirate orcs that have like pirate hats and like
Yeah,
peg legs and stuff.
They
A part of that clan.
Yeah, so they're kind of that. Well, that's the Death Skulls. No, sorry, that's the Blood Axes. My bad. Death Skulls are the Blue Boys. But yeah, so the Blood Axes, and then there's this. Then there's the Snake Bites, who hate
Ooh.
technology. The Snake Bites are super fucking weird. They barely use guns. They mostly just use big choppers, and they go after people with their like melee weapons. They prefer fighting melee style. They get in close.
So the melee boys, so they're all about like axes, swords,
Yeah, but they
stuff like
also
that.
don't wear armor, so they have different like iconography or shit that they wear because they don't wear shit like big hulking bits of armor and shit. They wear like leather straps. They kind of look like fantasy orcs, but with like weird additions. Like they'll have a bolter, they'll have a big shooter, or one of them proper oomy little chainswords. They'll have like weird shit that makes them just seem a bit off and different. Fun fact about the orcs, right?
Yeah.
So
What's up?
how they like trade with each other is they use their teeth. Because all the orcs grow the teeth at about the same rate, and they never run out of teeth. They knock out a couple of teeth, they just grow new fucking teeth, man. Except for bad moons.
And they use that as currency.
They do.
So they're like sharks that they grow. Like you take out a teeth, they just grow it back.
Yeah, they just grow new ones, man. They just keep growing teeth. Those fuckers just have fuck tons of teeth. And like the bad moons, who all paint all their shit yellow.
Mm-hmm. They have the most teeth.
They grow their teeth faster than anyone else. So that's how you can kind of tell that they are they're a member of that clan. Is they'll grow teeth. Their teeth grow faster, so they end up being richer. And they also just have better shit. Then there's what most people would consider to be one of the most important clans, being the Goths. See, the Goths are where Nazgul MacUruk comes from. He's one of the Goths, and he's the biggest and the greenest and the meanest.
Wait, you saying goth? What is it? Goth. Like it's not a phase, mom kind of goth.
No, Goff.
Oh, goth. Okay.
Goths. The Goths. He's the biggest, and they hit the hardest. And they've got the most warriors who have too much fun fighting.
So what is this?
Stuff.
What does this clan specialize in?
They specialize in being big and smacking you in the face really fucking hard and breaking every bone in your body, and just having a good scrap.
Okay,
but
so I'm guessing like each orc clan specializes in a different type of combat. Like the one you were talking about that don't use any like guns or like specialists in melee combat.
Not quite, because orcs are kind of weird. Where the clan is like an overall thing. They don't have a specific. Clans don't usually have a specific thing that they specialize in.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a specialist in combat. Most of the clans are like built of dozens of different types of orcs who all come and bring other weird shit to their thing, right? So
like America. America being like the melting pot of lots of different races and creeds and stuff. That's basically like what the orcs are, except that they're all green. Not. They're all green, and it's all different, all in one.
No, because the orcs actually do what they say they're going to do, as opposed to pretend and then lie to. So no, they're not like the Americans at all. They're all.
Well, I'm just providing an example. Someone might. Oh, okay, that makes sense. This type of stuff.
It wouldn't really work because. So no, it's
all
just
right.
so that
I'd
they
like to
have
see your
multiple
example
specialized
then. Okay, what's your real world example for the orcs then?
Why do the orcs, giant green-skinned 7 to 8 foot tall monsters, need a real world equivalent?
Well, something to relate to.
They're aliens. Why would they have anything we relate?
Okay, not relate to, but like an equivalent into the real world that they can understand more easily.
They're football hooligans, mate. That's what they are. That's even what Games Workshop calls them. They're football hooligans. And when I say football hooligans, it's not like we're like big fans of stuff like American football. It's not American football. It's like British football after a Premier League match with Chelsea and Arsenal going at it, and then their fans just losing their shit over who won. They're getting really fucking drunk and they're having a good time. Or a brutal fight. Either way is a good time.
Okay.
At least to the orcs.
That makes more sense.
The other problem is your example would be also slightly too organized to be orcs. Actually, it would be way too organized to be orcs, and
yeah, orcs don't strike me as the organized type. There's too much.
They don't have organization.
They're too chaotic.
The most organized thing they have is kind of
the whole war boss thing.
Yeah, you just listen to war boss and follow kind of where all of your instincts point you to, because they spawn, right? When they spawn in their life cycle, they start as like a spore that's cultivated by usually grots.
Mm-hmm.
When they pop up, they fully know exactly what they need to do. They will instinctively just do shit until they've done everything they actually need to do, which includes like just straight up murdering other orcs or getting into a fight or how to fix their bodies. They can just instinctively do it. There's an example of one of a Goth war boss. His name presently escapes me, who, when he woke up, he kind of got into a big fight. When he hit another orc, there was blood on his hand, and he went, "Hey, oh, okay. And then the other orc hit him, and there was no blood on that guy's hand. So, I'm hitting better. So he smashed the guy's face in. But like when it comes to like what you were talking about with like types of fighting styles and stuff, that comes down to the war bands, where you get people like the Speed Freaks or the Burner Boys.
Okay, so the war bands are different from clans then.
Yes, they are completely. So the clans are usually made up of several war bands, or the clans is just kind of comes down to, it's more like families. So it's like, what distinguishable features do they have? It would be like in the real world having a clan where a lot of people get blue eyes.
Ah, okay. So these war bands are these war bands like the ones I mentioned? Like one specializes in like land vehicles, one specializes in like building stuff. Because I noticed that orcs do have like machines. One specializes in like stealth attacks or like stuff like that.
Kind of. Except most of the stuff you listed aren't things orcs would do. Like stealth attacks, they would never do a stealth attack. Mostly because they don't like it. It's not as fun to stealth attacks. They wouldn't do it just based on the principle of it's not fun, so we're not doing it. We want to actually fight. We don't want to kill.
Wait, so there's like no orcs that use like covert like tactics and stuff like that, like sneaking? Really. No? Okay, that sucks.
The closest they'll do is they'll sneak up close. You can't shoot them from a distance and like snipe them, but then they'll get up close, roar in your face, and then get into a fight with you. They won't, because orcs don't want to kill you necessarily. Like they will kill you, but they don't want to just come and commit murder. They're not about efficiency in killing. They're about having fun with the fights. They're about the journey of the fight, and the fight itself, not the end result. They don't give a shit if they die. They don't give a shit if the guy they're fighting died. In fact, they're disappointed if they fight someone and they just sort of squish and die. Then they're genuinely very disappointed when that happens.
So are they like the torturous kind of bunch that like tortures people that they capture? Or are they just like... Okay.
Well, for a start, they don't capture anyone. They're not Drakari. They don't capture people. They fight people. They like their enemies to be healthy. They like their enemies to know they're coming. Because what they want is a fight. They don't want you dead. They don't want you sick. They want to fucking fight you. They want to get into your face and get into a fight. It's the difference between like Black Ops and I don't know, a Roman fucking legion. Like turning up at your doorstep and then coming. They want you to fight them. Except it's a Roman legion that's screaming and has zero organization whatsoever and is just sort of charging at you.
That's interesting.
But let me go back to the clans so you can get a better feel.
Yeah,
for
like the war bands and stuff. Yeah.
So you can get I'll do clans first, and war bands will kind of because they all kind of meet each other.
Okay, because I would love to learn about like the hierarchy of like the orcs.
So the first one we're going to talk about is the Bad Moons, right? The Bad Moons are the merchant class. They're kind of, or when I say merchant class, what I actually mean is they're the closest thing the orcs have to it, and that's what we will call them. But they're not really. They just happen to be the ones who buy and sell the most shit, and they just have insane amounts of shit. They have highly decorated shit. All their stuff looks rich by the standards of orcs. It's not the same as like seeing a Ultramarine pop up with his like gilded armor that's like kind of shiny and a bit battle worn, but like it looks clean and it looks good.
So am I right in thinking that the Blue Moons would be probably like one of the smartest of the orc, or sorry, the Bad Moons would be one of like the smartest orc clans then, since they're merchants and traders?
Not exactly, because they're still orcs. So but like by orc standards, they wouldn't be the
because you have to be you have to be somewhat smart in order to be like a trader.
No, not really with orcs, because they don't put that much. They don't give that much of a shit. So it's kind of like it's not hard to be a good trader among orcs.
Like,
if you are
hey, that gun costs 4 teeth. How much is 4 teeth? Like, do they know how to count? Like, basic education, stuff like that?
Yeah, well, I mean, all of their shit's instinctual. They're like, give me this many teeth, cool. And they just move on. The Bad Moons tend to be the rich ones who just grow a lot of teeth, and they can just do it. They also have what are known as weird boys. BOYZ the Weird Boys. And weird boys are basically the orc equivalent of a psyker.
Oh, so orcs have psykers. Okay. Interesting.
They do, but they're really, really, really weird, even among orcs. Like, other orcs don't like them much because they tend to be a bit weird, a bit in the corner, a bit less fighting, and they're also just like often get like weird. The pain boys tend to rig them up with weird shit and just be like, okay, cool, now release your psychic power in sort of that direction because that's where the enemy is.
So,
and that's just kind of how they work.
So these weird boys, are they part of the Bad Moons, or are they their own separate?
No, weird boys are a thing that appears in all the clans.
Okay.
But the Bad Moons get the most weird boys. It's like common for a weird boy to pop up with the rest of the Bad Moons as opposed to any of the other clans.
Okay, so when you say that they're psychers, going back to that, like what kind of like abilities can they do as a psyker?
They get weird things. So there's one thing where they channel kind of what is known as wild energy, where they take the energy from whatever war they're in, and they can like blast it out towards stuff. But it's kind of random what actually happens, because they tend to have stuff where they can cause waves of energy to like pulse through. And unless they find ways to like get rid of the psychic energy, their heads will just straight up pop. And they'll just die. It's not great to be an awkward weird boy because they don't work that much, but They also can just like let out a giant wave of energy, so like a giant shock wave that will like knock over a bunch of people or disintegrate them depending on the power levels, or like blast out actual lightning like you see in
Darktide?
when you play like a psycho, they can blast out energy and stuff. But they're weird boys. The weird boys are still just, they're weird among psychers even, where their stuff's just like,
Would they be like stronger than the average psyker, or
no, they're about the same as the average psyker.
okay?
I mean, their bodies will be stronger because they still have orc power.
Yeah, they're still like.
But
Okay,
they tend to have like less control, and they can like throw bolts of green lightning at people and blast things. But then, alternatively, if they fail to do that, they can vanish into the warp just at random, in a thunderclap, or like the head explodes in a ball of green flame, and then
damn. So they can teleport. Jeez.
it's more they don't teleport so much as just go into the warp. They do have
okay.
they have the, for example, one of the stories I've read about that like followed the orcs is they created teleporter, a really fucking shitty teleporter that would throw orcs into the warp and then like pop them out somewhere where they're kind of aimed at that, but would always be kind of random.
So it's like Nightcrawler's ability to teleport wherever he wants, but he just doesn't know where he wants to teleport, and it's just random places.
It's not so much as they don't know where they want to go, as they can't point where they want to go. They just go.
So it's just like in a like saying you want to like say they want to go teleport north. They go somewhere like that's north, but not exactly in the place they want to go. Is that like kind of right?
Kind of, but also so they have tech that lets them do that, but it's random. It's because it's orc tech, it's not like precise. So yeah, it does kind of do that, but also sometimes just doesn't let them out of the warp at all, and they never go anywhere. They just stay within the warp forever and are stuck there for eternity. Or they just explode. That's
Can
also
they
a possibility.
So when you say that they like channel like warp energy and stuff, can they? Because I know in like in Darktide you can get corrupted by the warp if you use like the abilities too much. Is that like the same thing with orcs that they can get corrupted by the warp?
Nope. Orcs are completely resistant to it. It doesn't affect them at all.
Like when you say completely resistant, like there's no, like no chance, or is there like a maybe like 5%
No,
chance?
there's no chance. There's no chance at all.
Dang. Okay.
They're different from the Tyranids, who also have zero chance of becoming like Chaos Tyranids. That is just not a thing that can happen. It's just not how they work. But then, so their powers are also kind of weird because they've got stuff where they can just half their powers are just things that orcs shout before they do it. Where they're like, they've got an ability which they call "This is taking too long," but they just summon the energy to like make things go faster. It's called something, "This is taking too long," or
Oh, that's great.
"Here we go." And if they say "Here we go," they're just going to open a temporary ref to the warp, and it's let you get to battle faster in a flash of green luminance, an instant of screaming terror. Yeah, the orcs. It's usually done to grots because yeah.
God,
There's
the more you tell me about the orcs, the more like crazy it would be if they actually like got together, just formed like one single army. They'd basically be unstoppable. But
kind of.
but they're too
There are
dumb. They're too dumb and chaotic to actually follow up on that.
half the time. It's not that they're too. They are kind of dumb, but they're also like they don't really want to take over. It's part of it is they just don't have that kind of drive that means they want to. They don't care that much either. But there are a few notable like orc weird boys, such as their names make me fucking laugh every time. the big red the warphead. Big red the warphead.
The
The mysterious
big,
warphead. It,
what was it again?
it's
The
so it's actually big red the warphead.
big red the warphead. And he's a weird boy.
Yeah, he's a weird boy. So he's just kind of weird because he vomits green lightning at people who challenge him. He just turns him like burns him to a crisp, and just has a fuck ton of raw energy that he can just like blast out. But like also, if unforeseen, it would also have like random shit happening, which would make random people just explode like overripe fruit, limbs snapping like twigs. It would just kill everyone around them. Also, orc weird boys are weird to other orcs because they don't like loud noises. They don't like being around everyone, all that chaos. They actually have minders, like orcs who watch over them, make sure they don't do anything stupid or start fights. There's
So
also
the weird boys don't like being around other orcs.
no, because they're too loud. They like the quiet because it doesn't make their powers go so weird, and then they're less likely to kill themselves without a fight. Weird boys are known as weird boys for a reason.
Okay, so weird
Then
boys
there's
are introverts. Okay.
kind of some of them are.
All right, so you were talking about the bad moons before, and then we moved on to the
Yes.
weird boys. So
Okay, so bad moons are them, but they also have. So there's a bunch of the signature mob. So it's mobs are kind of the like groups of orcs that specialize in specific types of fighting or stuff. So they got their flash kits. So they've got like custom what they call shooters, which is just big guns, really.
mhm.
And then they've also got a bunch of freebooters who are also like, pirates and do their own things. But like, he
Yeah.
was picked out of the funniest is there's one who was called Captain Badruk, who was kicked out of the clan for having too many teeth for his own good. He was too rich, so they
He
kicked
was
him out of
too
the clan.
rich and they kicked him out.
He was too rich for the richest clan, so they're like, "Fuck off." They also love gold, so they have a thing for gold where they will steal gold and like wrap it in bands around their teeth and stuff.
Oh god, they got a bit of Ferengi in them. Okay.
Yeah, but it's only the bad moons, not all orcs. Just like the bad moons specifically do this kind of
Ah,
shit.
okay.
Then the next clan we've got are the Blood Axes. These are the Blood Axes were the first orcs to encounter the Imperium of Man.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the first orcs that ran into humans. They didn't like them, but they did pick up on human tactics, such as camouflage, even though what they call camouflage is actually like not camouflaged at all. It's like bright colors that you could easily see anywhere in the world. It's just kind of in a weird camo pattern, really.
So, are these the ones that wear like little hats and have like cargo shorts or pants and stuff? Because we talked about like the Tithe episode 3 where the orcs attacked this little base, and a lot of them were like looked like military, had like the hats and stuff and the checkered camo colors and stuff. Are those the ones?
Did they have checkered stuff?
Yeah.
Like it was black and white checkers?
Yeah.
Nah, that's a different clan. That's the Goths.
Oh, okay. All right, so go back to the Blood Axis.
So the Blood Axes are weird because they're like the only clan that actually does stuff like retreat. However, they also don't retreat very much, by which I mean they vanish for like say 3 days and then come back with an even bigger army. And they're like, this will work. And they keep doing it until they win. They're just insane. But they are also the only clan that trades with humans for like war gear, vehicles, and have worked for the Imperium as like mercenaries. So
Oh wow, they worked with the Imperium?
Yeah, but the Imperium had to fucking pay them, and the moment they stopped paying them, the orcs just turned on them instantly.
Dang. Okay.
So yeah, they can be used as mercenaries, but they're not very
Reliable.
useful. Yeah, at all. They
Wait.
are very
So
unreliable, but that's very orky.
okay.
And then they're also known as backstabbing. They have a lot, yeah, backstabbing commanders. There's so they do kind of have blood axe, wear combat fatigues and forge caps in shades of green and drab colors. But those are like the commanders who are like their attempt at doing anything even vaguely Black Opsy. But like I said, they kind of do Black Ops stuff, but only to start a fight. Like they're not going to stick to it. They'll do it a bit or do it once, think it's stupid, then go and just start a fight with the rest of like they'll go kill like 5 guys and be like, this is boring, and then go start a fight with the rest of the battalion or whatever the fuck. They'll just go start a fight with everyone else.
Okay.
Boring to them. Okay, so the next clan is the Death Skulls.
Ooh, these ones sound cool.
They're looters and plunderers.
Oh.
They go and steal shit from corpses on battlefields, and they're not above acquiring things from other orcs who are not watching.
So they steal?
Oh yeah, of course. They collect anything that might as well be useful, as well as like grisly trophies, and then like various weird shit that they pick up. But they're also super superstitious in comparison to like other orcs. They're really superstitious, which is why they paint themselves and all their war gear blue, which
The luckiest color.
The luckiest color. Yeah.
So what do they do with all the stuff that they scavenge from like battlefields and off dead people?
They use it for fighting. They use it to fight.
Okay.
They don't trade or anything. Almost all the clans will still just start fights because they can. They're still orcs at the end of the day. None of them do like anything more ambitious than just trying to start a big fight.
Yeah, because
not how they work.
When you mentioned like scavenging like stuff, I was thinking that they're gonna use all the stuff they scavenged for like big like Titan-sized mechs.
I mean, they do. Orcs do build those. They have their own versions of that, but they usually look really scuffed and weird. But they're not like
so orky. Okay,
Titans. They're very orky. Like insanely, they're just the most orky version of what you would see as like a Titan.
it's like you look at it and you wonder like how the fuck does that even work? It's all like cobbled together with like fucking duct tape.
They also have a thing where if they encounter other like orc clans, the other clan will often find their shit just missing, and then suspiciously find it reappearing with the like Death Skull's colors and stuff, and they'll be like, "What the fuck? They stole my fucking car," or whatever.
So they're like they're like the type to fucking steal like the wheels and rims off a car and put them on cinder blocks, right?
No, they'd steal the entire car. Why would they stop at just the wheels? They'll steal the whole thing. But then they'll repaint it in their colors and be like, that was ours the whole time.
Oh, that makes sense. That's even better.
And then, but they also are one of the clans with the most Gretchen in their tribes. They just have a lot where they use them to like scout for valuables, steal shit for them. And they also use other races' teethers.
Okay, so you mentioned
find them with like human teeth and stuff.
You mentioned Gretchen. What are Gretchen?
Gretchen are the little orcs. They're goblins. I believe there's a name, but now suddenly. Oh yeah, Gretchen or Grots, same thing. Just different names for the same thing. But like, Gretchen are the ones who will go and like look after the little places or spawn points for orcs, I suppose you could call them. They'll go and make sure the fungus grows right. They'll also herd all the Oh my god, my brain's decided I'm not allowed to remember what the fucking thing is called.
Oh god, he's turning into a weird boy.
I am not one of them weird boys.
But so it sounds like they're all just used for menial labor
squigs.
then.
Yeah, no, they basically use them for looking after squigs. They've also got snotlings who are even smaller than Gretchens.
Okay, so
The
I always thought the
snotlings get
snotlings and the
bullied
Gretchen were
most.
like the same thing. Like the little like short little goblin
They're-
ones that always get like
they're
abused.
no, okay, Gretchen and snotlings are. Gretchen are just slightly bigger ones. Or Grots are slightly bigger ones than, and they're they're a lot more cowardly than orcs.
Hmm.
And usually used as like living shields to clear like minefields or walk through emergency terrain, or be like emergency food for the orcs.
Ah, okay. So they'd basically, if there's like a minefield, they send the Gretchen in to basically set off all the
Yeah,
mines.
the Gretchen and snotlings are usually sent in. The snotlings, although, are also often used the Gretchen too, but they're often like pets to bigger orcs.
Mm-hmm. Pets.
Yeah, basically just pets that they abuse and
Do
don't
they
treat
do they
very
like
well.
do they like put them in like those little purses and stuff, like chihuahuas, and
No,
they just carrying them around? That you
nah,
see
they
in like
just sort of,
some movies by the rich white ladies.
not really. They just sort of let them run around and kick them when they're annoyed
Ah,
a lot, which does lead to a lot of like Gretchen's trying to kill orcs, but usually failing because they're like
they're
when they come up to their
they're
like
weak.
shin.
Yeah, but you said like
Okay.
the Gretchens and like the Snotlings like build a lot of the stuff.
Yeah,
Has
they
there
use
been
just builders and stuff.
been any instances of them building like little mechs and stuff and like killing orcs or like
Well,
be
they
like
are killer
partaking in
cans.
fights?
No, because the other thing about Gretchen is they're fucking cowards. They're
Ah,
terrified of everything. They're easy to scare away from stuff. They don't want to fight much. They tend to run away from fights. They are better. They have way better aim than just normal orcs. So if you give them a half decent thing to shoot with, they could probably hit anything they pointed at. But again, orcs aren't going to do that because the orcs also innately don't trust them and won't give them the best gear for any reason other because they just want it for themselves. They're
so
a bunch
this is
of
good.
they're just a bunch of like everyone's kind of greedy in their own way.
So you're telling me like how bad like the Gretchen and the Snotlings are treated. Has there any been an instance of an orc being like nice to the Gretchen and the Snotlings?
Mm, not really. The best is Gazgul and his fucking snotling who he considers himself Gazgul's best friend, but Gazgul's just is like it's basically his pet. So kind of because
So
the Gretchen I'm thinking of is Makari. Sorry, my fucking pronunciation. I wrote this down. I'm trying to read it. I'm like, how the fuck do you say this? It's Makari.
Makari.
Makari the Glock, who's just like, is stuck with Gazgul and follows him around, but also survives in like insane ways. Makari is ridiculously, and I mean utterly ridiculously lucky. Where like he survives things that should definitely have killed him, and then they find him somewhere else. There's a bit where he like gets sat down on by a really like Gazgul sits on him, right? But
Yeah.
Gazgul's a head that's on basically a giant mech suit. So he squishes this fucking little thing. They pull Makari off, hose him off the armor, and he gets up and just walks around again. Like what?
It sounds like he's got the
He
fucking
just
Toon
doesn't die.
Force.
Yeah, no, he doesn't die. Makari doesn't die. He keeps turning up around Gazgul and doesn't die.
Even if they try like just shooting him, he just doesn't get damaged, or they always miss.
It's kind of like that, but there's even the thing where like he gets caught by the Imperium at one point and interrogated,
Hmm.
and like Gazgul then turns up, kills fights the Space Wolf, and then they leave. Like
He doesn't kill the space wolf? He just like fights it and then just
it was a psychic. It was one. It was librarian Space Wolf or
okay.
shaman. The Space Wolves are shamans, not librarians, but same thing. Okay, we're gonna go back to the clans because the next clan is the Evil Sons, and the Evil
Ooh.
Sons are dedicated to speed and making as much noise as possible in combat.
Okay, so I'm
So
gonna
they
take a
just
guess. They have all like the land vehicles.
they have all the vehicles, not just the land vehicles. They have the sky vehicles, the bikes. They have everything. They have every vehicle that you can imagine. They have one, and they will use it to get into combat at high speed. The Evil Sons just like going fast, so they will do everything they can to go fast. These boys have the fastest, reddest vehicles imaginable.
Do they paint like little rocket what is it? Fucking red fire on it to make it go even faster?
Nah, they're just red. They don't need fire. They use boosters at the back.
Ah.
Why would they paint it on when they can just use it? So yeah, they're weird though. But all members of this clan have to wear one item of red clothing at all times. But
It's like a school uniform.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be a uniform, but it's like as long as as long as they have red somewhere, they can use it.
Oh, is there one orc that has like a red scarf like Common Rider style?
There might be, but I don't know.
That
I
would
don't
be
think there's
fucking
another orc
cool.
that has a red scarf the same as Ichigo. But there might be. I mean, I haven't looked into it that deeply.
Bro, that would be so cool just to have like an orc that's has like a motorcycle like that Common Rider, and he just has like
But they,
the same scarf.
that's
Just
true.
cosplay. Alright,
But
go
they
on.
do use blood when they run out of red paint. They do use blood to paint their vehicles.
Ooh, okay.
So they just like, what's red? Ah, blood. Let's use that, and that works. Their whole thing is just speed, so they're not that distinguished. But then the next clan is the Goths, and the Goths are known as the toughest, most brutal orcs in the galaxy. So if you, from what I read, they're about the same as the elite Black Orcs from Warhammer Fantasy, which I have no idea if that means anything to you, but that's apparently what they get equated to.
Well, I have played a little bit of orcs in Total Warhammer too. There are like black orcs like units that you can get, and I think that they're just like stronger melee than like the regular orcs.
Okay, fair enough. Lore-wise, though, these guys are the biggest, baddest, most angry orcs you get, who all just try and start fights. They will take any excuse to start a fight, even amongst themselves. But they do it a lot.
You look at them the wrong way, it's a fight. You step on
Yeah,
their shoes, it's a fight.
yeah, and they're specialists in hand-to-hand combat. They prefer their battles up close and personal. And they also they also like the sticky bomb or the stick bomb.
The
This is like
sticky
a
bomb?
bomb stick bomb.
Oh, stick bomb. Is it like just like a stick with a bomb
Yeah,
attached to it, or is it like a
it's
sticky
just
bomb
stick
launcher?
bomb. It's like a bomb with a handle on it that you can throw, and
Oh,
that you can also use in club.
Like a World War II like Russian grenade, right?
World War One.
Oh, World War One. Sorry.
First World War, they used a lot of the like long handle grenades. They also a lot of the handles were they would actually use them to throw the grenades. They were like, those sticks you get for dogs that you can put a tennis ball in, you could like flick it and they'll throw the ball.
Yeah.
I've seen a few designs, so that was kind of how the grenades worked.
Oh, okay.
But those also might have just been designs as like a better way to do it, where you can pull the pin by flicking the thing, and then you don't have to like have the danger of accidentally pulling the pin and holding the grenade too long and blowing yourself up.
All right, so you were saying they specialize in melee combat.
Yeah, and just for combat in trenches, ruins, bunkers, rat holes. They just like all their stuff up close. They like hitting you in the face. A mob of boys is at least 20 strong, and a true goth horde is 100 times that number at its start. It'll get even
Damn.
bigger as it goes, but a mob of goth boys gets fucking humongous. And when the goths go to war, the ground shakes as their boots smash into the floor. They have the greatest numbers of knobs and storm boys of any of the green skin clans.
Uh, I really wish that the orcs weren't so dumb and actually like banded together more often and
If they
really
did, they would probably take over the galaxy in a bot.
yeah.
There wouldn't be any other factions, and the orcs would also find it boring because then they wouldn't have anyone else to fight, and they like a fight against other people way too much to let go to do that.
Well, from what I understand, chaos is like the demons in chaos. They like as soon as they die, they just go back to the warp and just like respawn. So I would guess that the orcs would love to fight chaos because they just keep coming back.
I mean, there's an orc who got stuck there in the warp. I can't remember his name. I'm gonna have to double check his name.
All right, so we can
He's
circle
a
back to that once we're done with the clans.
yes.
All right, so you were just talking about the goths.
The goths. The most of the goths, it can be truly said of these boys, they live only for war. They also only dress in like white checkered. They dress mostly in black with like the black and white checkers for relief.
Yeah.
Just so you get those like black and white things. And they also see big bright colors as un-orky, at least the goths. But their most famous member, the rest of the most famous orc anyone can think of is Gazgul Thraka, who's currently the 40k like leader of the Great War. That I believe also ended up fighting against the fucking Tyranids at one point.
Ooh.
So the next clan up is Snakebites. And the Snakebites are considered fucking weird by all the other clans because they prefer ancient Orky tradition to advanced technology. They shun things like force fields. They don't like armored vehicles. And they protect themselves with war paint and ride into battle with fucking spears and choppers.
Okay.
Choppers being their like axes / swords.
So they're basically like the Native Americans riding on horses, using like very primitive weapons and stuff.
Kind of.
Like cavemen, kind of.
But they do also use like they do sometimes use other stuff, but it's mostly just, choppers. They don't like using guns and stuff, but they will if they have to. They're also the only they're also really weird in that orcs don't have hair, right?
Yeah. Yeah, all the ones I've seen are just bald.
They can't. The snake bites have hair. Well, kind of. So they have
hair.
They have what are called? No, they have hair squigs. So squigs are like, and the way the squigs are like a thing that just fucking bites onto the orc, onto the head, and just stays there.
So the hair is its own organism.
It's a completely different organism, yeah.
That's fucking funny.
and they just wear one of the first stages of orc life, because squigs are like fucking terrifying little boars with teeth. They're like if a hippo and a boar had a child, and the child also had nothing but sharp teeth. That's what squigs are.
So you can go ahead and go into like what the orcs use squigs for.
So the orcs use squigs for everything because they got bomb squigs, they've got bolt hunt squigs, they've got squigs they fire through the warp at enemies with their like portal guns, which don't work the same way as portal guns in Portal. They work by shooting ripping giant holes in the warp and just like firing things through it and hoping it hits what they're aiming at. Doesn't always. Sometimes it hits. Sometimes you end up being the enemy and having a squig just spawn in your stomach, and you just explode out with this fucking terrified creature eating you from the inside out. The orcs are kind of weird to fight against.
So there's like different subspecies of squigs, I'm guessing, right?
There's a lot.
So is it safe to say like squigs are like the Eevee of 40k?
Nah. Squigs are like...
Well, the reason I say Eevee is because Eevee has like different evolutions and stuff.
Yeah, Eevee has different evolutions, but like these things are really... It's hard to compare anything from 40k to fucking Pokemon because Pokemon.
Well, fucking obviously, dude. Like,
no, to give anyone an idea for these things, Squigs are just basically a ball with legs and more teeth than you'd like to ever see. But they've got at least 20 different kinds of squigs, and all squigs are edible, as far as I can tell, by everyone. But more specifically by orcs, because they breed them to keep them as they want, and they also get juicy squigs, which are specifically their favorite type of squig to eat. But they also have like bomb squigs, buzzer squigs. They're like insect type that they use for like they put in a squig catapult and throw it at the enemies, and they can like they're like piranhas, but bugs. They come and just devour everything they throw them at. They got chewing squigs, which are just these big. Just realized chewing squigs are like orc bubblegum. Yeah, that's what they are. These like they've also got like squig hounds, which are like just
bloodhounds.
Kind of more like they're more like Boerboels or Rottweilers with their guard dogs. That's what the guard squigs are, or squig hounds. Yeah, like there's a lot. There's also gas squigs.
Actually, the more like appropriate comparison would be like dogs, right? To squigs, because there's like so many different breeds of dogs, and they all like are bred for different purposes.
Yeah, basically. They've also got gas squigs, which are just like mustard gas bombs.
Okay, well, there's no dog version of that, from what I know. So
no, there's a lot of weird fucking squigs that do a lot of things. They've got exploding squigs, which are basically like the dragons from the Discworld, which they just eat stuff and then explode into meat, teeth, and bone fragments, which go everywhere.
That would be a good like explosive.
Buried and used as mines. Yeah, they also use them as mines. So they use squigs as grenades as well. Because of course they use. So squigs can fall into
out, just throw it and fucking explodes everywhere.
They're fucking weird, dude. Squigs are so goddamn weird.
I love them. I love the squigs. They're so cool.
The snake fighters tend to use them a lot, as you'd expect.
Yeah.
They also have like weird snake belts with like metal buckles, with also the oddest form of like intricacy, where they often have metal buckles that like are fashioned to look like snakes. So it's got a lot of like artistry to it, and you're like, what the fuck? These guys are weird. Snake bites are.
Well, compared to the other orcs, yeah, they'd be really weird.
But also, the clan's whelps are like toughened up by making venomous snakes bite them. Hence where they get their name from as well for the other clans. And then they just took the name. They're like, oh, we like that. And then our final clan, they're not technically a clan, but they're kind of seen as a clan by the rest of the galaxy, not by the orcs themselves, but by the the Imperium of Man, everyone else, and they just were like, ah, fuck it, and they just used the name. But these are the freebooters. Them freebooters.
The pirates.
Haze the pirates and thieves.
Yeah, because you
And
mentioned
they-
you mentioned a freebooter pirate guy before
Yes, he was kicked out of the
for being too rich.
the Bad Moons. He was kicked out of the Bad Moons. But yeah, they're the ones who they kind of have a lot of like pirate iconography. They wear pirate hats, but they're weird. They do like they just wear randomly whatever. They look weird for orcs because they just wear like super piratey stuff. They're not that big into like starting a war. They're more likely to go raiding planets, like void raiding planets. So void in 40k usually refers to space. So it's just like they will go take one of their space hulks, go over a random planet, raid it for shit, leave.
Also, like void is just another word for space in 40k.
Yeah, I mean it's the void. There's the fuck all there.
Okay.
These guys just do whatever the fuck they want. They go off. They steal shit. They don't often fight with wars, but they would with like I believe there's a bunch of them who fight with Gazgul's Great War, which is kind of trying to get all of them together. But yeah, they just all just kind of go around doing shit.
See, when you told me that, I would say like from what you told me, like the image in my head is like the freebooters are like the pirates of like 40k. They just go and like raid other ships and shit, right? And planets, plundering and singing and drinking, all that shit.
Yeah,
Basically pirates in space, but green.
Very green, very angry, and very down to have a fight.
They sound cool.
Yeah. So after the clans, you kind of get the odd boys, who are kind of the more targeted kinds of orcs. They're not clans. These are just kind of orcs who have specialties, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you get the docs or pain boys, who are like basically the doctors, but their version of being doctors is absolutely terrifying. Also, sniff that booba. Sniff it, Chris.
Hey, hon. All right.
But also the them pain boys are the ones who are likely to, attach crude bionics to like give you robot arms and shit.
Okay.
If they've so the arms tend to be created by mech boys, who I'll get to in a minute, but they tend to just attach them. Although sometimes they don't really pay enough attention, so they kind of attach into the wrong part of the body, and it just looks really weird. They've had things where they just add it to like, they add something like an exploding leg to
Exploding
their arm.
leg.
Or remove a leg, add an exploding leg, and ignore the arm that's missing.
Okay.
And then have like, but then you also get pain bosses who are just, high-ranking pain boys who do the same thing. They tend to also have like weird bodyguards and shit. The next is kind of the most kind, where the guys who look after they mostly just look after the squigs and other little guys who are the herders. Or the herders! They're just odd boys who are skilled in traps and like caretaking of shit. They're kind of the most meh. They don't really do much. They don't go on the battlefields much. They're just kind of they're like shepherds.
I mean, I think they serve an important role for like the almighty squigs, right?
Yeah, they'd also start getting into fights if people came too near. But yeah, they mostly just look after stuff. Then you get them mad boys. So they're orcs who's they didn't like develop quite right, so they're kind of weird and mad. Or took a giant bomb to the skull and they've now lost bits of their brain. and didn't heal properly from it, or
What was the name
like
of this one?
Mad Boys. But they also tend to form retinues for like weird boys. So they look after the like weird boys and do shit and stay apart from other orcs in like in their own like towns and shit, shanties around the like bases and shit.
Okay.
It's kind of incompetent, but they also do tend to look after, you know, the weird boys.
The
Who we've
psyker
talked
ones.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
They also seem to be kind of good luck because if you get a mob of weird boys, it tends to mean you're doing well. Your wow, or your mob is doing pretty well because they've turned up to look after your weird boys.
All right.
They're also seen as like a decent asset on the battlefield because they're just batshit insane.
Are there like
none of their tactics
berserker
make
ones?
sense.
That kind of sounds like a
Pretty much.
berserker type.
Kind of, because some of them are like berserkers, but some of them are just like have weird tactics that don't make sense to anyone. Not so much charge in and attack, so much as, you know, build something insane and fire and not really care about what happens. Although that also goes into our next like subcategory, the mech boys.
Ooh, the mech boys. Now these ones sound really cool. I'm guessing they
So
build stuff because
so
judging by the name.
Engineers. Yeah, they're like the engineers.
Mm-hmm.
They're extremely important to the orc speed freaks because they look after the bikes and the cars and the planes and anything else that they use, all their vehicles. They make sure that shit works. And then the most important and skilled of the mech boys are known as big mechs. Really, a group of like little mech boys doing all their little things in the side, and then working with their combi weapons.
Comedy weapons?
Combi weapons, boy.
Oh, I thought you said comedy weapons.
No, combi.
Oh, like combi, combi. Okay.
No. Kombi.
Of course, it has to be. It has to be spelled that way. It's orcs. Okay. My apologies.
Yeah, you always have to case. Well, they use a weird letter.
So, what are these combi weapons?
They're usually just like, you know, Gatling guns and shit they put on top of their vehicles, or they build in the mechs.
Ooh, okay.
So they build in their like mech suits and stuff.
So if you want like a chopper with a Gatling gun on the side of it, then you just get with these guys.
I mean, you want anything built, you go to these guys. They will build anything for you, including like bionic arms. They build the whole fucking shebang.
Ooh, bionic arm. That sounds cool.
You also get mech bosses from time to time who are just a big mech who leads a war, or will end up in charge of a war. They're usually known as a mech bot. A mech boss. The next we get is the Wild Boys. Although the majority of orcs will never venture that far from the tribe.
Did you say
These
the wild boys?
Yeah.
Okay.
They become like these weird dudes who go off on their own.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm asking you to repeat yourself, but you like whenever you talk in like the orc voice, like sometimes your mic doesn't pick it up. So, yeah.
Disappointing. But yeah, so they tend to be. They don't really multiply them. That they struggle, and they usually end up in like weird jungles or deserts by themselves, and then slowly start to multiply until they've got like.
What do these wild boys like specialize in?
Yeah, they just specialize in, you know, jungles and going out and just being guys who end up. They're like scouts, kind of.
Okay.
They'll go out on their own and then just like create new tribes. Or
if you had to equate them to like a real world example, what would you equate them to?
colonizers.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
But they tend to like build up weird shit. But they can sometimes, if they go on planets where a lot of the ancestors have been like driven off or slain or killed or whatever, they become feral orcs, and they usually aren't that much of a threat. They're just kind of start fighting themselves, and they're really, really uncivilized. Like even by the standards of orcs, they're uncivilized, which is saying something. Because have you seen orcs? Have you seen the shit we've been
Yeah,
talking about? These guys are
like
not really civilized.
I was gonna ask you like, what's the difference between a regular orc and a feral orc?
Feral orcs are just less civilized to the point of just basically being wild animals. They can also sometimes breed supersized squigs, like squiggoths, that are bigger than elephants, and ride those fuckers around
Oh God.
as if they're like horses. And dude, these things can be bigger than bane blades.
Oh, those sound so cool.
And then they often tend to fight each other. Although eventually they'll create their own orc war bands that will then eventually spawn their own wild boys, etc., etc. Then they get the big dogs.
The
Who are
big dogs. Okay.
pig dogs.
Pig dogs?
Yeah, it's a weird one because they're like they're usually with the weird the wild boys, but it's also because they breed the like giant squigs and stuff that they ride.
Oh, okay.
Then you get runt herds who are also known as slavers. They're odd boys who look after or herd the Gretchen and Snotlings. And they tend to have whips. The main characteristic weapon is a whip.
Okay, so they're just like the slave drivers.
Kind of, yeah. They're almost exclusively for the Gretchen. They're not that's about all they do. Then the next guys you get are them speed freaks.
Now
Who
these are the ones
often
that love going fast.
yeah. They also tend to make up most of the clan of the evil sons.
All right.
So a lot of evil sons is almost a clan of almost exclusively of like speed freaks, so they make it really big. But they're the guys who like to drive and they like to go fast.
Go fast or go
Red
home.
ones go faster. Exactly. But they're super weird.
What's weird
They
about
also
them?
tend to have, well, the speed freaks a
Yeah.
lot. They're also the fact that they're just orcs. But they're weird in the fact that they just like to go fast, and they build their own cars that aren't really cars. They like, if you ever see one of those things, you'll be like, what the fuck? That looks like a Land Rover fucked a bunch of trucks and then you know formed something not even remotely related to any of his parents. It's their vehicles are really weird looking and don't make sense into how they work.
Well, it's all orc, dude. It doesn't have to
This is
make
true, but
sense.
but then you get some other really odd boys, right? Such
Mm-hmm.
as some boys who are orc teeth bankers and yellers who are just priests of Gork and Mork.
Oh God,
And then
they have priests.
they do. How else do they get the
Oh,
word of Gork and Mork out?
okay.
You have to have your priests, man.
And here I thought the Imperium was like the only like super religious one. Okay, on
Oh no,
that
they all
topic,
have priests.
if you had to like rate like the religious like zealotry, who would you think would be more like cuckoo with that? Would you rate?
All the species or just humans and orcs?
Yeah, just the Imperium and orcs.
Imperium, easy.
Okay.
Orcs don't give that much of a shit.
Okay, that's good.
Like,
Like if an orc's like suddenly said like I don't believe in like that orc and mork shit or gork and mork, they wouldn't like behead him and kill him immediately.
no, they wouldn't give a shit. They'd be like, "Can you fight? Cool."
Okay, that's good. Not like
They-
Imperium. If you say you don't believe, they just fucking kill you on the spot.
yeah, but the orcs are like, unless of course your name is Rabute Gilliman, in which case they can't, because you're A, 9 foot tall, and B, the son of your so-called god.
Okay, one day we'll talk about Rebute Gilliman.
If we talk about all the Primarchs, the weird shit will happen there. Anyway, moving on, we've got things like the Orcs seeing themselves as the toughest race in the galaxy, mightier by far than the humans, Eldari or the Tau.
Honestly, given that I don't know a lot about the other races,
Yeah, I
yeah,
know
I would
much
say like the
more
orcs probably are like the baseline like toughest. Because all like the you got regular ass humans, and then you have the space marines, but those are like genetically engineered. But the orcs are just like born that way.
Oh, they've always been that way. They were genetically engineered to be that way as well. But weren't you listening at the beginning?
Well, yeah, but that was the quarks, right?
Yeah, but the Quarks and the Orcs are the same thing.
Okay.
They've devolved from the Quarks. They're less than they were, but that doesn't make them any less dangerous. Just less intelligent and
Okay,
less.
so on the topic of
They're
like the toughest, uh, what like strength level would you give like a space marine? Like 1 to 10.
I'd give them probably like an 8.
And the orcs?
They would get a 9 to 10 depending.
Like a
These
regular
guys are
orc,
bigger.
like a bargain bin
Yeah,
orc.
bargain bin orc would get a 9.
Okay, what about like a regular like human?
Uh, 4.
Okay. That honestly, that's even more like commendable on like the Imperial Guard that they managed to like hold off like
I've
the
even.
orcs and stuff.
Did you ever hear about the human that orcs fear?
Is that old One Eye, right?
Oh yes, old One Eye, old Bale Eye. Not technically old One Eye, he's old Bale Eye, but yes, old Bale Eye being one of the most famous humans to ever exist, and the only one that the orcs. I don't know if I don't know if they're scared of Yarrick so much as respect him to the point of they don't want him to die because he's such a good enemy.
Yeah, because I remember seeing the animated episode Hammer and Bolter where they talk about Yarick and they basically just let him go just so they can fight more later.
Yeah, and the fact that Gazgul can speak High Gothic scares the shit out of Yarrick. Because Yarrick would never, ever consider himself on good terms with the Orcs, right?
Hmm.
Even though Gazgul considers Yarrick to be his best friend.
That's
Weird, but, like,
that's only going one way, buddy.
but also it's best friend in the sense of the Orcs.
Wait, so what would an orc consider like a best friend? What does that entail?
Whoever gives them the best fight.
Ah, okay. I had a feeling
You
it was
know
going to
that
go that way.
Yarrick has an orc arm, right? He has an orc robotic arm.
No, I didn't. I remember his arm gets cut off like in the animated episode.
So it was during a hand-to-hand duel with a war boss named Ulgard. Ulgard. Oh God. In the battle for Hades' Hive, and he lost his arm. He took the orc's head in return, replacing his severed limb with the war boss's own power claw.
God,
Which
how would that even work? Like
the
he
orcs
he
took
just
one look at
attached it to his stump?
something like that, but because of the way the orcs work, it works for him. He earned the respect to the point of they
Of
just
course.
believe he can do that, so he did it, and it works.
So
This fucking arm works for him perfectly.
if a bunch of orcs believed like a regular ass human could breathe fire, then the human could breathe fire?
Yeah, but it'd have to be like all the orcs, not like, or at least a giant collection of Awa.
Oh god. Oh, I
But
love the
yeah, they
orcs,
could do
man.
that
I
if
love
they
them.
wanted to. But remember, they can't. They can't like create something out of fucking nothing. It has to be. So they're not like all powerful. If all the orcs believe something, it would happen. It's more that things they believe can work, but they
Hmm.
can't. Like they couldn't believe.
They're not
Say
like
that,
like mega tier reality warpers. They can only alter
no, no, no.
reality on like a
They
small
can.
scale.
It's you say small scale, but it's like a more practical scale, if that makes sense. They can't like generate shit out of nothing. They can't like break the warp or anything like that. But they can make things work that shouldn't work. They can kind of heal from things that should have killed them. So they have weird little quirks to their power.
God, as soon as you said that, the thing from Monty Python with like the Black Knight getting all his limbs cut off and is saying it's just a flesh wound. Like if an orc did that, would it would it really like be just a flesh wound?
Pretty much. They would just either go pick their arm up and put it back on, or go get a different orc's arm. Or, if they lose their body, get a new body.
Oh, that's great. So, do orcs have like a healing factor, kind of? Do they heal like faster than like a regular human? Because you're
I
telling me they can just like attach their arms back onto their body and be like,
Well, no, that's what the pain boys are for.
oh, okay. So if they get like a cut, like say someone like cuts them with like a knife, do they like heal back like super quick or?
No, they scar. They heal fairly slowly, but they will heal all the way back to normal.
Okay,
So
so
they
like
won't die.
no scars.
Yeah, they do get scarred, but it takes a lot to scar them. Like a lot of Gazgul's scars are like he healed from getting his head removed or shit like that. They don't have much else. They're not gods or they're not like the chaos.
Yeah.
But they do have a lot of interesting things that can go for them.
Is was that the last of the orc clans that you wanted to teach me about?
Well, the last the orc, I've gone through all the clans and I've gone through all the types of orcs you get within those clans.
Hmm.
I mean, besides the usual knobs and shooter boys and so on. The
Ooh, do
next
you?
thing that I need to teach you about is the Wa. And
Okay,
why a Wa?
the Wa.
Because the orcs tend to spread around the galaxy easily, as they do.
Yeah, they're literal fungus. They can reproduce
But an orc
anywhere,
war is a war basically on an apocalyptic scale.
like a world war, or like yeah, something like that, right? I mean, I'm just guessing. That's like my equivalent.
Yeah, and then due to their like warlike, and then they also start. So it kind of starts with a lot of raids, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then somebody in the entire thing start giving this raids that are taking over a planet with orcs. It'll be taken over by a boss, a war boss, who will be. It'll usually have a dream, and
Like
then
Gazgul.
yeah, like Gazgul, and then he'll start getting bigger, bit like noticeably bigger. Where if you looked at him, you'd be like, ah. That is the war boss because he is fucking humongous. He's bigger than the other orcs.
And
He
he's
looks
tougher than the
meaner.
other orcs.
But he's literally bigger, not just like he seems bigger. He's genuinely bigger.
Like height-wise,
And
right?
height, muscle, everything wise.
Okay.
He's bigger in every possible way. But the orcs do call a lot of things wars. They do they use it for a lot of stuff. But a true proper war is usually when it's led by a single war boss or warlord if it gets even bigger than that.
Hmm.
But warlords are fairly rare. I think Gazgul's probably the only warlord that a lot of people know about presently. And he led one that's big enough that's kind of pushed towards they kind of pushed it at the Tyranids and let them fight. The Tyranids won, but it wasn't a near thing. What? Sorry, there is a terrible smell coming through this house, and I don't know where it's coming from.
Oh god, there's an orc in there. That's why.
No.
One of the wild boys.
But yeah, so they will then go and start a fight with someone, which also leads them to going off towards, say, a planet and then clashing with,
Say like the
stars.
Imperium.
So yeah, with the Imperium first, will be first the fucking Imperial army. And the orcs will start landing. They'll start taking over, and then they'll go after Hive World. And then they'll start fighting the Hive World. And then more orcs will arrive. And then more orcs will arrive until there's so many fucking orcs that all over the planet. Then they'll leave them there, and then they'll go, and there'll be this giant flood of orcs just taking it over, and they'll build bigger and bigger war machines. They will end up building mobile fortresses and then war engines that rival the titans of mankind. All with this giant, and then they'll start glowing green with the gestalt kind of psychic energy of the Wa. It's especially
Ooh.
weird boys.
Wow, so they literally just glow green. Wow.
Well, yeah, the weird boys anyway. But that's usually the energy like building up, and they will actually have to like release it,
Hmm.
not die.
And how do they release it? Just like by using their
They
psychic
blast out.
abilities?
Yeah, they just use their psychic abilities, blast out waves, create portals, do whatever, just use it up.
Okay.
And they also then they'll like stop planet hopping, sometimes just by firing themselves across planets on like giant rocks with like old school
Yeah, they were doing that in this
rockets.
first they did that in the first Space Marine game. And I
Yeah,
correctly guessed that they just hollow out the asteroids and just hide in them until they land on a planet and just break out. I also saw that they have like planet-sized like ships, like a planet like that's the actual
Space
ship.
Hulks.
Yeah.
Those are Space Hulks. Yeah, those are ancient ships they've stolen or found drifting in space or just randomly got kicked out of the warp. Tends to be how those things work.
Okay.
But also there's now the Great War, which is a recent thing that's happening within 40k, within the 41st millennium, where the orcs are there's a lot more wars happening, small little wars all over the galaxy. And some of them are starting to coalesce into a bigger one. And and there's a lot of them also who would randomly start talking about the gods. They'll say the gods are calling us, they're sending us somewhere. So they start getting bigger. And then a lot of other like psychers also kind of feeling this weird call around the orcs.
Gork
And
and
that's
Mork,
now
they're calling them to fight.
something's building. They don't actually know yet what exactly they're being pointed at. But one of the wars was pointed towards the Tyranids as like a way of holding off the invasion of the Tyranids from the galaxy for a while.
Oh, okay.
and they fought for a while the Indominus Crusade happened with Guilliman. The Orcs and the Tyranids fought. It didn't last as long as everyone had hoped, but it did go for a while. The Orcs also didn't really like fighting the Tyranids. They're not apparently that fun.
Oh yeah, because they're just mindless. They're just mindless animals. They don't really have a love for like violence and fighting as like the orcs do.
That's true. The Tyranids also, I think they just don't. They're not fun to fight, if that makes sense. They're like not as fun to fight.
Oh, yeah, I can see it. So what happened next with that? The Great War.
We're up to the present. We don't know yet.
Oh, okay. Is there like
We're up to
a
the
wall
present.
that's like slowly growing again?
There is, but it's also kind of. I mean, currently all the law is focused on Gilliman and the Lion's Return because big Primarchs.
Aw. No more orc stuff.
Nothing new other than a few little odds and ends, I suppose you could say, about it, like Orc Tech being fucking cursed and not really not meaning to work, but just does. Like their guns making no fucking sense, and the fact that they also like to fight with stuff like burners, sluggers, choppers, shooters, scorchers, rocket
Meltas.
launchers. They don't got melters. Melters are human.
Oh man. Just judging by the name, it would make me think it would be like an orc name or orc
No,
weapon.
melter guns are used by Space Marines.
Oh yeah, I used a couple in Space Marine too. But like, just
Yeah, there you go.
if you had told me like, hey, is this like an orc weapon or like a Space Marine weapon? You just told me, oh, it's a melta gun, and like, I would say, oh, it's just that's definitely an orc weapon. Just judging by the name, it's a very orky name.
But the orcs have like names for all the other species, which is quite interesting to have. Like they have ways of talking about all the other species, which is kind of funny, where they call things like
Or lay it on me.
BGs for the Space Marines, them Grey Boys for the Grey Boys being the
Grey Knights.
Tau. No, the
Oh, the
Tau.
Tau. Okay. Wait, Grey
Yeah,
Boys for the Tau?
Yeah, Tau are like gray-skinned aliens underneath all their armor.
Oh, okay. Because I've seen a couple images for Tau. They're more like blue, but I guess it's just the coloring that's a little bit messed up.
That's what the orcs call them, because the orcs are kind of weird anyway. But then
Okay.
then you got the Umis for just humans. They're the Umis.
That's a simple name for him. All right, what's the next one?
You got the Spikies, who are they're the Dracaru, the Dark Eldar.
Okay. What do they call the regular Eldar then?
Sorry?
What do they call the regular Eldar?
Yeah. Pansies.
Pansies?
Yeah. they think they're like cows because they don't fight. They don't fight straight up. They like dance around them.
I don't know why, but just like having an orc call an Eldar like a pansy is like the funniest fucking thing because it's just like it's such a normal word.
Mm.
Like we call like other people pansies in like human language and shit, but just like it's fucking funny.
They do have other things that they call the Eldar, such as pointy ear gits.
Okay, yeah.
Little git. So the Spikies is the Dark Eldar, the Spikies, because they tend to have like really pointy armor for some fucking reason. Then they've got Bug Eyes, who are the Tyranids.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. They are just bugs.
Yeah, they're just the bug eyes. Trying to
What do
the
they call a
Chaos Marines,
chaos?
spiky Marines. Although they do tend to call a lot of other races ranty little gits.
What do they call the demons?
I'm not. They don't really seem to talk or acknowledge demons much because they don't really like interact with the warp.
Well, I mean, there was that one orc that you said that was trapped in the warp, fighting demons and shit, right?
Yeah, but he's like a special case because he doesn't. He's just kind of in heaven. He's doing his own thing where it really doesn't matter.
Okay.
But then they call the Necrons just Metal Boys or the Metal Boys.
Yeah, that suits the Necrons. Yeah.
They also sometimes call the Loyalist Marines, so the non Chaos Marines, Tin Can Umis, and the Umis also get pink skins.
Well, didn't you already say that they called like the Space Marines something?
Beakies.
The Beakies.
Yeah,
Okay.
they've also got other names for them as well. Depends on depends on the context and like which orcs.
Okay, so this is just like what like the normal like orc would call some like the
It's also like
what
a younger
call
orc
them.
who hasn't seen the like beaky ones or been told other things.
Are there still like beaky Space Marines like in like service right now?
Uh, a few, but it's a bit rarer. They've also got the squats or the legends or the leagues of Votan, who they just call runts.
Yeah, the
So they're basically
dwarves.
the dwarves.
They call them runts. That's funny.
And they also call the Tyranids Nids.
Yeah, that fits.
And occasionally they also call the Necron scrap.
Oh, has there been an instance of them like trying to use like Necron like bodies for something?
Nah.
No.
Most of the
Ah.
Necron don't let the Necron have stuff where if you try and steal their tech, they tend to just disintegrate it.
Oh, so if you kill like you kill a Necron, they just like disintegrate then?
Yeah.
Ah, damn. That would have
They
been
don't
that
want
would have been
anyone to
cool.
touch their stuff. So they have ways of like hiding their tech from people. They don't want anyone to study it or get a hold of it.
Okay, so they're like predators where they just blow up their themselves so no one gets a hand on their tech.
Kind of. They also just are Necrons are just fucking unique bastards.
One day you'll get to gush about
Their
the
lore
Necrons.
their lore is fascinating, but yeah. The orcs are just basically a bunch of hooligans who run around the galaxy starting fights, having fun. Not exactly getting drunk, because I don't know if they can even get drunk. They do drink a lot of grog, so maybe they do get drunk. But they mostly just go around doing whatever the fuck they want, starting fights, enjoying their life as they just do stuff.
So on like a happiness scale, what would you put like the orcs? Like 1 to 10?
I'm at like an 8 or 9. These guys
Wow.
are probably the happiest race in 40k, outside of like maybe the Tau.
Yeah, that one makes
Like
sense.
The Tau have shit going on, but like overall, the orcs are generally just happy with life. They
As
don't
long as
have
there's a
that like
fight.
as long as there's a fight, they're enjoying the shit they do. They're not they're not gonna like go start problem. They are gonna start problems, but they're not gonna go and like you're not gonna read an orc book and be like, oh, they're all very sad or anything. They're just like, no, bro, we're fighting. Life's good. We're in a fight. Fuck yeah, man.
I really like that about the orcs. That
They don't.
they're never sad because there's always like a fight because that's how shit the 40k universe is because there's always a fight.
I mean, there's a few like theories out where they're like sorry, where the orcs are the reason why there's so much war in the galaxies because everyone just because the orcs thinks the war is the best, so they're like, let's keep
Oh,
it.
it's like their ability, like to if they enough think, if enough of them think that something is that it becomes that.
Yeah, but keep in mind it's kind of like it's kind of a fan theory. It's not necessarily factual to to 40k. It's just kind of a theory, which makes sense to a lot of people, but like, just like
Yeah, it
it's
does
not
kind of make
factual.
sense when you take into account their psychic ability like that.
Yeah. There's
So
also they also have like the Great Rift in the galaxy, which I'm sure you know about from playing Space Marine 2.
the
You've
Great
heard about the
Rift,
Great Rift.
that was when Cadia got like destroyed, right?
Yeah, and it like split a rift in the warp through that like divided the galaxy in half.
Yeah.
The orcs call it Gork's Grin.
Gork's grin. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, the orcs fear no one and nothing. They just want to fight, man. They're not even scared of the fucking. They're not scared of the fucking Tyranids. They're not scared of anything.
Man, I think being an orc is probably like the best thing to be in 40k.
Oh no, 100%. You want to be an orc because the orcs have fun. They're fucking impossibly. They're annoyingly hard to kill. Like even the greenskins are just one of the most annoying galaxy spread races or spacefaring races just to have to deal with at any point for any reason because they're just like, we're having the fun, boys. We're gonna get in a fight. We're gonna go out crumping and we're gonna have the best time. And then they go do it. They go get into a fight. They go steal the other race's shit. They go loot everything. They go sell it to other orcs. Then they get into a fight with those orcs. Then they sell some more shit, and then they get into another fight, and then they live and rinse and repeat, and just have fun.
Man, that was some really interesting lore that you dropped on me about the orcs.
The orcs are probably they're still my favorite race.
Well, obviously because you're part orc, so.
Yeah, the other funny thing that happened right while I was researching this was I found an orc name generator. And the names he gave me were so weird. For
Orc
example,
name generator.
Judrag Shagtak. Why don't I just send you the one I found?
Okay, let me see. Send it to me on Discord and I'll pull it
You're
up.
behind the times, mate.
Let's see. Orc name generator. Okay.
Rugrak.
Wait.
Cockpit. Mad
Wait.
Mecha Shredder.
Generate name.
Oh.
Okay, I got Mechgax Teeth Snag.
Mecha Steve Snag.
Bellowin Grand Throttler of Koragas 6.
Rod Snark. Mural. Sundering Wah Smasher. Of
Alright.
Volg. Huh?
That's gonna be my orc name from now on. Teeth Snag. It's such an orky name. I love it, man. Oh, my face hurts a little bit from laughing so much. Ah. Oh boy. I'm sure like after next week, because that's gonna be like Halloween week, so you gotta give like tell me about some some really scary ones. The next time we talk about some Warhammer.
Warhammer, you want the Warhammer scary shit? You know, most of the scary shit in Warhammer isn't like a story you can tell in one go because it's slow creeping dread. It's watching your entire battalion burn in hell. It's walking through the Chaos Marines breeding grounds where they've are sacrificing stolen humans and stripping them of their skin.
Oh God. Well, that's on par for Chaos.
Yeah, chaos is where most of the horror sits, or the Tyranids. Chaos, even if in like the games they look clean because you get the cleaner factions, the cleaner like looking factions, because you don't get like say the Emperor's Children or what are they? I think they're the Death Eaters or
The World Eaters?
the World Eaters. Yeah, the ones that Mortarian's unit or Mortarian's Legion.
I have no idea who Motarian is, but he sounds like a death
The
dude,
Primarch
just
of the World
judging by the
Eaters.
fucking name.
Yeah, Mortarion's story is fucking depressing.
God, Games Workshop was not being you know,
Facetious when they called it the Grim Dark of the Far Future.
no,
It is
when they were
grim, it's dark.
like naming the Mortarian a death, like the World Eaters, they gave him the name Mortarian. They weren't being like smart with that one.
I mean, most of the names are kind of weird and it depends on the worlds they came from. I don't know. Primarch had some interesting names.
Oh man, I can't
I mean,
wait
there's
until we get
Rogel
I can't wait until we
There's
get to
also,
the Salamanders. The
I
best
mean, there's
faction.
Rogel Dawn. There's Rogel Dawn. There's Lionel Johnson. There's Horace Lubrical. There's a bunch of these guys.
All right. AC, is there any other orc related stuff you wanted to, teach me about?
I I would, except my throat hurts at this point, and I feel like I need to go and get another long ass cup of tea before I can keep talking about the orcs. But the orcs, I could probably keep going if I'm honest. There's so much to talk about with the orcs. But I think next time, if we talk more about the orcs, I'll go into a bit of Gazgul's story. Tell you a bit about Gazgul Mak Uruk Thrakar.
Ooh. Just like
I think
just drop
you
all
know
the
which one
lore
to do.
on Gazgul.
I mean, Gazgul's got off so much lore. I'll do Gazgul lore, and I think I'll do a few of the notable orcs that you should know about besides just Gazgul, because I mean, you've heard of the story of the orc who ended up in hell. Well, I say hell. He ended up in the warp in service to Khorne.
No, is that the same one that you're telling me that was just fighting all the time against the demons?
Yes.
Oh, it's the same one. Well,
Yeah, I mean,
I haven't learned about more about him
Tuska.
outside of what you told me.
His name's Tuska.
Tusk.
Demon killer. He was an orc warlord. Like he loved nothing more than just fighting stuff stronger than him, right?
Yeah.
And if just for a quick version of his story, his flagship was invaded by a demonic entity as it tried to fight through the warp, right?
Mm-hmm.
The orcs found out about this guy. They found him. They started fighting him, and then they had fun. And then they found where he went. So they followed him into the. He went and found all his weird boys. And he was like, right, we're going to Cadia. And we're going to go invade the Eye of Terror. Just because they want another fucking demon to fight. They were like, right, we're going to invade the Eye of Terror. So, they did. They went, they got in, they fought in. They fought in hell. And he died. He died in hell.
And he just
And
respawned?
No.
Oh, what? Oh, that kind of
He
sucked.
died. Tuska died. He did take out something with it, but Tuska died.
Oh, so he's not like fighting the demons forever in the warp.
Wait till I finished. I haven't finished yet.
Okay.
Patience. However, the joy in the murderous spectacle and the fight was so great. These orcs had so much fun. It was so great. They got the attention of Khorne, who decided, you know what? These guys fought hard. They fought for what I am. You know, I'm going to give them another battle. So he gave them another battle. He took them into his domain in the realm of chaos and let them fight again and again and again, once a day. They
I mean,
keep
at the end of
coming
the
back.
day, it doesn't matter which blood for the blood god or skull for the skull throne, as long as something gets killed, right?
As long as there's a fight. And there was a lot of fights. Horn has made sure of this, and the orcs just keep going. Tuska is one of many, many orcs. And he had fun. Just fucking fighting in essentially hell. There are so many stories of weird things the orcs do to each other, though, man. And the squigs being kind of,
It always comes back down to the squigs with you. You just
always the squigs and the. I keep thinking of the one grot in the one book I read who tried to lead a grot uprising against his orcs within the Drakari's domain. It didn't go well because he kept getting found out, and eventually he almost got killed by his war boss, who caught on what was going on and kicked him really hard and broke all of his ribs.
oh
Those
wow.
shit survived though. Still, it happens. It happens. You win some, you get kicked in the ribs by a 10-foot tall orc.
That reminds me of the part in the Tithe episode that I was talking about earlier, where one of the orcs just like fucking punches the commissar in the ribs, and like it makes him fly backwards and he just coughs up blood afterwards.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate to the orcs. Orcs are terrifying, and you don't want to fight them one-on-one.
See, that's what I really like about the orcs, when they're taken seriously and like fucking scary. But I also like when they're like portrayed as like the comedy guys.
The thing is, they need to be both
Yeah,
because they're scary and funny.
like you like fighting an orc is like probably like one of the scariest things. That and maybe fighting the Tyranids.
Fighting the Tyranids, yes. Fighting the orcs, yes. Actually, most of the other races in 40k are pretty scary because you're fighting the Drakari. They probably won't kill you, but they'll take you back to their home city and then torture you for the next 30 years. The
You,
humans will just destroy your entire planet, especially if you even caught a glimpse of, say, chaos. You just
yeah.
saw them. You didn't even like interact with chaos. You just saw them. They will murder you. They don't need anyone to know chaos exists. So, just straight up murder is a solution to everything.
Well, I think AC is all burnt out on orc knowledge he can give me for right now.
I've word vomited all of my orc knowledge.
Catch us after next week. Well, we will be talking about another Warhammer related topic. I'm kind of leaning towards corn because
You want to hear about
it,
corn?
it is gonna be Halloween that week, so October.
Are you sure you just want to hear about corn? You don't want to hear about, say, all four of the chaos gods, because they're all terrifying in their own ways.
I
You
mean
may
it.
think Slanesh, oh, not that scary, just, lust and shit. No, Slanesh is fucking scary. Zinch, the god of change, who led the Thousand Sons to losing their entire souls to Grandfather Nurgle and his
The great
body
unclean
horror.
one.
Yes.
Honestly, dude, if you could talk about all four of the chaos gods for as long as you talked about orc, like for like over like 2 hours right now, then I'd be more than
Yeah.
down for it. If your
I
voice can
mean,
handle it.
probably, but the problem with chaos is it also leads back into the Horus Heresy, and then it leads up to, say, bits about the traitor legions and the traitor primarchs and how they fit into everything and how they cause shit for each other. And yeah, there's a lot of weird shit. Also the fact that some of them are back. Traitors and loyalists alike.
Okay. Well, that could be held off
Including Thorn's champion.
until the next Warhammer discussion.
Exactly.
So, regarding orcs, is there anything like Warhammer related, like maybe book related that you'd want to like
There
tell
are
people
a
that are
few,
listening
but,
right now to probably like take a look at?
Give me 1 sec. I need let me go through my collections. 'Cause I have collections of things. So the one I recommend, especially for you, Chris, is The Big Ducker, which is a book that takes place, which is the book I was referencing a lot with orcs getting stuck with in the Drakari's place,
Mm-hmm.
where they have to fight them themselves. That's the Big Ducker. That's the Big Ducker. Then there's also Gazgul Thraka, Prophet of the War, which is another good book, but that's just talking about Gazgul and his story from the perspective of an Inquisitor and a Space Wolf who are trying to find him. Those are both great books I highly recommend. I have listened to the audiobooks and they are spectacular. I highly recommend them. The rest of the 40k books I've actually read are not orc related, unfortunately, because there's not that many of them. Most of them are either Imperial or like... Actually, no, they're almost all Imperial. Can't find anything on the Eldar, who were my favorite race as a kid because they're just the coolest stuff. And I've got 2 Tau books. The rest of it's just, Imperium.
All
Yeah,
right.
and I've got those Necron books. The Infinite and the Divine.
Ooh, that sounds like a Necron
great.
thing.
It is a Necron thing because the Infinite and the Divine are talking about of the best character in 40k, the Necron Kleptomaniac. As for his name, I can't remember.
All right,
It'll come to me in a minute.
so
Anyway.
you said Gazgul Thraka, Prophet Wa, and
Yeah.
the Big Daka.
Yes.
All right. Well,
Huh?
you heard it from the orc's
the
mouth.
Big Ducker. Be careful with this. Not the Big Ducker.
Da.
The Big Ducker.
My apologies. My Orcanese is not the best. But you heard it from the orc's mouth, AC. The Big Daka and Gazgul Thraka, Prophet Wa, books that you might want to check out if you are interested in orc lore.
Crazy.
Do you have any parting words from our diggas out there before we go ahead and
all them gits out there? All them gits out there. We're just gonna do this. Oh, smash 'em, boys! Go smash 'em all. Also, I'm gonna go have a drink and all. And don't forget the footy. Well, that was a bit too British. I'll get some crumping in. Oh, I'm gonna go and get a fucking drink. Probably of whiskey. No, I'm sorry. Something for my throat. I've been talking for too long. Probably a cup of like rooibos.
But yeah,
a lovely little bit of lemon and honey.
Oh, that sounds nice. But for me, I'm gonna go ahead and keep streaming all that stuff. But on the podcast side, thank you guys for listening. If you guys are interested in more of this Warhammer discussion, go ahead and leave a comment down in the comment section wherever you're listening to this from. But next week we're going to go back to our regularly scheduled podcast, talking about the news and all that stuff.
Along with a bit of horror stuff, though, because we might talk a little bit about Terrifier 3. Given it is Halloween week, we must discuss some of that horror news.
Yeah, I'll have to take a look at that movie. I heard that it has like a scene that made people walk out because it was so crazy. But that's
the shower scene.
Yeah, but that's not Warhammer related. But
no, that's just for next week.
Yeah. We gotta end it. We gotta end it on a wall, right, AC?
Yeah. Wait. Let me
move back a little bit.
Let's get it started.
Yeah, let's get it started.
There we go.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, sorry, it's fine. Anyway, Johnny.
Whoa! There we go. All right, bye guys.
Bye.
Have a good one. See y'all next week.